Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Mixed Signals. You guys, today this is going to be the part 2 of horrible bosses. So with this experience, you guys, just before I get started, I want to say that in this environment, it was unhealthy to begin with. The area that I lived in was unhealthy. A lot of substance abuse going on in this area. Very just low energy, down energy, unhealthy people. So right off of the muscle, you guys, working at this establishment, it was unhealthy. My first day at work, my manager said to me that her ex-husband gave her an STD. This is within the first 2 hours of working. And I remember that I didn't say anything. You know, I kept my mouth shut and I was just kind of looking around the room like, wow, that's way too much information. She even said to me, sorry, TMI. And I was like, I mean, if you feel comfortable talking about, you know, your deceased ex-husband giving you an STD, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. It's your experience. And now I know that just saying something like that, that gives unhealthy people, you know, and again, like I said in the first video, I don't want to use titles, but I am more than sure these managers were borderline narcissistic, okay? Covert narcissist, narcissistic, overt narcissist, grandiose narcissist. Now, of course, I'm going to feel comfortable because she's telling me some of the most private, personal information, you know, where I get to talking about, you know, the guy I'm dating and it's like, we're going through a really rough patch. And I'm like, yeah, we're just having some issues right now. And, you know, things are just not what they seemed or not what, you know, he promised me. And, you know, there's just kind of a negative outlook right now. I just don't know what to do. I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And, you know, I'm just kind of giving her information about my life. And I remember I brought I don't want to say what kind of business this was because that will just give away everything, but, you know, it had to deal with something medical. And I remember I brought my boyfriend in a little while after this, and this woman, you guys, what should I call her? I'll call her Maria. Maria was whispering to me when I came in with my boyfriend, introduced him. She was like, are you okay? And I was like, why are you whispering? Yeah, why are we whispering? What's wrong? You know, I'm looking around and she's like, I was just asking, is everything okay? Right then and there, I should have quit my job just because that is so strange, you know, because she was giving up all this personal information about herself to be asking me, is everything okay with me? I should have been asking her, is everything okay with you? You know, like, what's wrong with you? Now, again, you guys, I didn't have the best boundaries, if any at all, right? These jobs, one thing all these jobs taught me, have the best boundaries, okay? Don't come to me about gossiping because I'm not your friend. We're in competition for the position, right? Like, I'm not your friend. I don't gossip about my coworkers because I don't really care like that about them, let alone that's so low vibrational to me. Now, strange things that I would notice from the beginning would be she would leave money around, okay? And I mean like $5 in the bathroom. By the way, you guys, this woman lived in the facility, okay? There was like a warehouse in the background for when the medical supply would be dropped off, and she lived back there. So there was a bathroom up front, and she would leave like $10, $5 just on the ground, you know, on the mirror, on the countertops. She would leave it in the back office. She would leave it just, you know, like scattered around money. And to me, I was like, well, I'm not going to pick it up because maybe she has some kind of like ritual she does with money. So that's something really strange that I would notice about her. However, it led up to, you know, because I would have to take money back constantly to the safe. And you guys, sometimes it would be upwards at the end of the night, $17,000 to $22,000 a night. And I remember her saying to me, oh, I feel fine leaving you around money, you having the, you know, code to the safe and everything like that. Not a problem. You know, I've left money around before. It was a test. with these unhealthy people, unstable people, they will always be testing you. Know that. That will be a fact, okay? If something seems out of the ordinary, it's because it's a test. Something doesn't feel right, it's a test. Where you're like, why does this person keep forgetting it's a test? Now, one thing that she liked to do is make sure that I knew all the rules, you know, all the policies of everything going on. You know, I had to put stuff into the computer with people's medical cards. And it was like, if I messed up, all hell would break loose. But if she messed up, it was like, oh, not a big deal, nonchalant. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. So she held me at like this really high standard. Another thing, all these jobs are going to have in common, you guys, high turnover rates. This business was open for 5 years and there had already been 8 people working. Okay. And I mean, like, they would hire, you know, a part-time worker. She was the only full-time worker, one part-time worker, like every 6 months. Think about the money that it costs just to train somebody. Okay. Every single person, myself included, I left after 9 or 10 months. Every single person left because of her. Okay. Not because the business, not because the money was great. It was because of her behavior. Maria's behavior was terrible. Like I said, you guys, this woman, I would more than anything I can say, she was a narcissist. Which is funny because when I would be at work and I would have some downtime, I'd be cleaning, I would be listening to like different videos on YouTube, just like I'm making now. It's what encouraged me, where it was like, oh, a narcissistic boss, let me watch that. That's exactly where I was like, oh, she's like that. Now, which was another strange thing, high turnover rates. Now, let me say another thing that I noticed that was strange is that she had her favorites, and this would be customers, right? So it would be the most unhealthy, unstable customers that you could imagine, to the point where I would have people's wives or like husbands threatening me over the phone to know like what was going on in the facility, like how long their husband was there. I would have people's spouses calling, asking, is my husband or wife there right now? Very unstable. And you guys, it's because this woman made that type of environment okay. What business could you call and say, is my husband there right now? Why aren't you calling his cell phone? Because you know he's not going to pick up, right? She knew this and she engaged it. She loved it. She allowed it. She was fired up about lives like that, people's lives like that. To the point, you guys, down to the minute where she would say, Nicola, well, you know how Carrie's family can be. You know how Marcus's family can be. You know how Benita's family is. And I would go, I don't care. You know, these people, they would be threatening me, calling a B over the phone, calling me out of my name, where I would be like, if they come, I'm not even going to deal with them because I can't stand their wife or their husband. Very inappropriate. You guys, to the point where the owner of the business was like, they should not be a customer there anymore. They're threatening my employee, you know, let alone, I don't want her to feel like, you know, we're always going to choose the customer over, you know, her. Like me. Like I said, she invited this type of attention in, and then she would sit there and play bully, and then she would play like hero, right? Like, oh my God, you're the victim. That's so awful. Are you okay? There would be strange things that she would do when I'd be counting money, right? And like I told you guys, sometimes upwards of like $22,000 a day I'd be counting. You know, and she would go out of nowhere, right in the middle, you guys, of counting money. She would peek over and be like, oh, Nicola. And I'd be like, what? She would be like, oh, so you remember that customer that, and I'd be like, well, I'm counting money right now. Talk to me later about it. You guys, one time I tried to do that with her because she had done it to me so many times, interrupting me while counting money. This is something that they love to do. They love to test your patience. They want you to snap on them. They want you to freak out on them. They really do. Just so that they could call the owner of the business, or they could say, you know, that's a write-up. I feel uncomfortable around you now. At one time I did that to her. She just ignored me. So, of course, I took a page out of her book. The last couple times I was counting money, I didn't respond to her whatsoever. I mean, there were so many times where I had to tell this woman, I'm counting money. Don't you see what I'm doing? Do you see? Now I got to start all over. Or it'd be like 3 or 4 times that I'd have to count this money over and over and over again. One thing I can say is that I really kept myself contained. I kept my emotions contained around her because, you guys, she was so mentally and emotionally unstable. Let me give you guys a quick story here. Trying not to make this video long like the last one. There was a time that she went out on a date with this gentleman from Jamaica, and you guys, I lived up north at this time, I lived so far up north that somebody from Jamaica, it was like, whoa, like almost unheard of, unseen, like, why are you here type of situation. He had owned a house up there. Anyway, they end up going out on a date, and this woman is like, oh, I don't go on dates very much. She had 2 deceased ex-husbands, and she was just like, I'm going to go with this guy. I'm going to have a good time, this and that and whatever. And I remember being like, this is going to be the worst date ever, I bet. You guys, they go out on their date, and she comes back and she's like, oh my gosh, it was the best date ever. I ordered a glass of wine. He ordered, the food, because he was driving, no drinking and driving. This woman had to have been like almost 60 years old. And I'm like, really? Best date ever, huh? And she was like, yeah, it was so wonderful. He was amazing. We just talked about family, life, and love, and, where we want to be in the next 10 years. We just enjoyed each other's company. You guys, this is when I was like, I will never believe a word that this woman tells me again. This man, okay, this Jamaican beautiful man, okay, came into the job, and he goes, where is she? And he's like yelling, and I'm all, excuse me? And he goes, where's Maria? And I was like, she's not here today. Do you need something? Is something wrong? He was like, that was the worst day ever. I will never be around her again. You know what she did? And I was like, are we talking about the same date? And he was like, no, she's the worst person ever. All she did was talk about trauma. She just wanted to get to know my family. She was trying to pick my family apart. And I was like, that's not what she said. Right? And so then I'm like, let me stop myself, because she lied to my face, smiling. Everything is fine. This is where they're at. Okay? Read the room. These people do not have a sense, okay, of awareness, okay? Anything around them going on. This woman had a psychology degree. That's another thing you guys need to be very leery of, is these people have the degree. They've read the books, so they know how to manipulate, right? Like I said, this woman very like, everything was wonderful, great, we're going out again. He was like, I will never talk to that woman again. I will never go out with her again. He was like, I don't even want to come here anymore. He was like, I can't believe she did what she did. After that, you guys, every time, I never said anything to her because that's not my place, let alone, I was like, I could only imagine lying to somebody's face and then them coming to me and saying, that's not what happened. Okay, let alone everybody knew about it. The owner of the business would tell me, I just feel bad for her because no one else will hire her. And I would be like, she's losing business for you. Like, you've had to train how many people? And this woman was asking me, well, if I let her go, would you be the manager? And I told her, well, yeah, that's fine. Of course, she's not gonna let her go because she would feel guilty, right? Because Maria was manipulative and unstable. And you guys, she would have made money nowhere else. She would have had nothing. This woman, you guys, as a manager of this medical facility, was making upwards of $6,000 a month to torment people. So like I said, after the date, I was like, oh, I know you're a liar. Oh, for sure. The fact that you would smile up in my face, fool. Like I said, any conversation after that, I would be like, I don't believe a word that you say. She loved to gossip about her, stepkids who don't even talk to her. They would just call her to borrow money, and she would just try and gossip with me about her kids. And I would always just stare at her like, that's none of my business. I'd be like, huh, that's how you talk about your kids? I could only imagine how you talk about your friends and your family and everything else. Like, I don't want to hear it. Funny her friend, I remember her saying that she would be bullied in high school. All the pretty girls were really mean to her. Another thing I want to point out, you guys, is that they talk about people, but really they're talking about you. I don't know, how do I explain this? They talk about other people, but really they're talking about you. Like, she would talk about how she was bullied in high school, how kids were really mean to her, but, you know, she got her revenge when she came back and she was looking all good in high school, or excuse me, for like her, you know, 20th high school or whatever, her whatever high school reunion, and she was like 40 years old and she looked amazing. She had money and she had this, and everyone was jealous of her, which was really funny because her friend came in and you could tell her friend was standing at the door listening, and this woman was like projecting, like yelling at me about, you know, how bad she was bullied and how bad she was treated and how she got revenge. The best revenge is looking amazing and this and that. And her friend was just staring in the doorway at her, bringing her lunch, like, and I'm like looking at her friend, and this woman, Maria, just talk, didn't even see the friend in the doorway. What was really interesting about it is the friend ended up coming around the corner and she's trying to hand me her lunch. And I said, don't hand it to me. You can hand it to her. She's right there. Hand it to her. Why are you so, like, she is literally in like 2 steps away from me, and her friend was just, it was so awkward, so uncomfortable. Her friend just says hi and leaves because she knew she was lying. That's why she was just standing there listening to her like, no, you're a liar. That's not what you told me. That's not at all what was going on. Another thing before I go, you guys, that I want to say is that, like I said, these people will talk about other people or situations because they're upset with you, but they're using that situation, you know, to talk to you about it because they don't know how to be direct and talk to you. Just like every day there was a problem in the business. Every day something was wrong. Every time I came in the morning, it would be like, hi, okay, so this is what you did wrong. This, and this. It would never be like, you did amazing, you know, you did wonderful for 8 hours. You did wonderful for these 7 hours. There was a time where she had gone out to eat at a restaurant, and this area, you guys, there's only like 4 or 5 restaurants or whatever. She went out to eat by herself, you know, and she's telling me this story, and she's like yelling at me to the point, you guys, I can remember, I can't even count anymore, that I would have to tell her, Maria, I'd say, Maria, stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me. And she'd be like, I'm not yelling at you. And I'd be like, you are yelling at me. Stop being emotional. You need to calm down. We are at business. You know, we're doing business right now. Like, something, what is wrong with you, I would say. You know, and she'd be like, well, I was at the restaurant and they were really rude to me because I ordered a steak and I wanted it medium rare, and then they made it well, and then they did this and they did. And I would be like, what? Why do you think I care about? Why are you telling me? Well, I told the manager and I told this person and then nobody cares. And I'm like, you need to calm down, Maria. Where I'd be like, don't stop yelling at me. Don't speak to me like that. You know, like, it's almost like you have to train these people every single day. It's like, almost like they wake up and they're like, oh, it's a new day. I don't, you know, everything that I learned yesterday, I don't know. Like I said, they're always projecting how they feel about you, but they're talking about it, you know, in a way of like what somebody else did to them. Like I said, she played favorites with other customers, and, you know, especially the customers that treated me horribly and their spouses. She loved those people the most. She was very nosy. If we had to report something to the state, because a customer was doing something illegal, or, you know, I would say, Maria, we need to report that. And she'd go, no, we don't. I'm watching them myself. I'd be like, so you're pulling, or you're doing surveillance on the customers? That's not your job. She would call the owner of the business, and the owner would be like, no, you need to report that. Well, I'm not going to report that because I know what's going on, and Nicola's going above me, and I feel, you know, like she's being disrespectful towards me. You guys, we had the worst employee, coworker, boss, manager, whatever relationship you could imagine. I mean, you guys, at the end of the day, I had to end up quitting because something that these people will do is they will make sure that either you quit or you get fired. Okay. She was constantly complaining to the owner of the business. And then she would turn around and complain to me about the owner. Like, she would be on the microphone and covering the camera, talking about how the owner of the business is a C word and nobody cares about her. Her boyfriend and husband ended up leaving her because she had no money left over because she put all her money in the businesses. And constantly I'd be like, I don't need to know this information. This has nothing to do with me. Like, please don't tell me about this. I'd rather hear it from her mouth. Again, don't gossip to me. Like I said, you guys, very unstable, very unhealthy. So at the end, I told myself the only reason I would quit is if this woman said I stole money. Remember, I told you she would leave money around. Something strange she would do is leave money around in different spots. And then she'd be like, no, I know you're not going to steal because I know, you know, I've left money before and you haven't nothing's came up missing. And I mean nothing. At the end, I remember my last day, you guys, I was counting the register and I accidentally put in $450, when it was like $100 order. So there was $96 missing, $96.50. And she had to check the till and go over my safe every night. So I would be like, oh, you'll find it. Not a problem. You know, I was like, I know you'll find it. And I just remember her looking at me like this. Oh, like, and I was like, you have to do the till anyway and count it. It's in there. I was like, I just put it in wrong. I was like, sorry. I was like, my bad. You know, it's going to happen. This woman, you guys, ends up calling the owner of the company. And I'm getting message after message that day about how that money needs to be returned. You know, they trusted me. Guys, I didn't even respond because I was like, we had this conversation. I told her that I accidentally put in $450 and not the $96. I was like, that's why it's off by like $96. I was like, why would she call the owner? And it hit me. Oh, she's trying to get me fired. She's trying to get me in trouble. Where I said to myself, what's it going to be next time? What's she going to do next time? Lose a couple $1,000s and blame it on me and I'll get sued and go to jail? I said, I'm not even going to spend another moment in there. They literally, I didn't respond to anything. And she was like, turn your keys in, turn this in. Let me tell you how this owner of the business knew she was wrong. Like a year and a half later, this woman ended up quitting and she offered me a job back. Okay, after telling me, turn in the keys, we're changing the locks to the door, I want your keys, this, that, or whatever. She ended up asking me if I wanted to work there again after that woman retired. Okay. Like I said, you guys, these people make up so many stories in their head constantly. Like, we're working at a medical facility and here's this woman and she's doing, you know, substance abuse on the job and then complaining to me where I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. I've been doing this for 16 years and it's between my doctor and I. Well, leave it between you guys because I don't want to hear about it. Let alone, that's not getting rid of the root of your issues. If you've been on pills for 16 years, figure something else out. Like, and you guys, the reason why I feel like I'm coming at you the way I'm coming at you and I have all this energy about this situation is because I really cared and I really like this job. I loved the patients. I loved what I did. I could not stand being around this woman though. I mean, to the point where the owner of the business would be like, you need to leave. Like, you know, Maria, get out of here. You know, leave Nicola to do her job. You need to leave her alone. You know, don't be around her. Oh, one thing you guys I want to say before I let you go. The reason why the owner would tell her to leave all the time is because there was one day where in the beginning she would be touching me, like hugging me, touching my shoulders, touching my back. And I had to like snap on her and tell her, don't touch me. That's very inappropriate. I don't understand why you feel so comfortable to put your hands on me. You know, this is when I really started learning about transference of energy. And she was like, oh no, I understand. It's a boundary thing. You guys, my boss, because of course she's got cameras, she was like, you just need to leave Nicola alone so she could do her work. I was like, you know, you don't need to help me unless I ask for help or unless you see it's really busy. You guys, we had like a $25,000 Friday and this woman came and just sat there and stared and just talked with the customers like she was the president's, like she was the first lady, okay? You know, the pastor's wife. Hi everyone, how are you guys? I was running around like crazy doing all the work at the end of the day, because I never really addressed her when there was customers around. At the end of the day, I said, Maria, why didn't you help me? You saw all these customers. And she goes, well, you told me not to help you unless you ask. And I said, no, I told you, you don't need to touch me and you don't need to help me unless it's really busy or, you know, you could see. I was like, it was a Friday. And she was like, oh, well, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I say, you guys, these people teach you that they're always going to get away with bad behavior. Like I said, the owner of the business didn't fire her. She was like, yeah, you're going to run my business. Number one, I feel bad for you and I'll feel guilty because you have nothing else, right? She was enabling her bad behavior, right? And like I said, you guys, at the end of the day, I walked away because I was like, what's it going to be next? And that's sometimes what you have to think of at these jobs is like, is it worth me going to jail to work here? Is that money really going to be worth it at the end of the day? Well, all right, you guys, allow that to simmer.